Hi guys, welcome back to CETV. I'm Howard Frank from Camera Electronic, and today we've got Taylor Edwards from TE Content and the Film Guy to talk to us about the latest from Sony. Welcome to CETV. I'm Howard Frank. Today we've got Taylor Edwards from TE Content and also known as the Film Guy on YouTube. Make sure you check out his channel. Taylor, you've been trying something out for us the last few days. Tell us about it.
Well, this is the FX30. It's the brand new camera from Sony, which is new to their cinema line. It's basically an FX3 but with a crop sensor. All the same specs, all the same frame rates, dynamic range, but it's half the price.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So you've been using FX3, FX6 for a while now, so you're obviously pretty sold on the Sony Creative Pro or Cinema Line system as they talk about it. What's great about that system?
For me, and for context, I've used probably 20 cameras over the last 5 years because I kept trying to find out what works best for my system. For me, the easy thing about Sony, especially the FX6 and a big camera being the FX3, is that you put them in a bag, you take them out, they're ready to go. I won't go into brands, but a lot of camera brands, they have drawbacks, they have cripple hammers, they have rigging you need to rig them up to get them to work. They make products that just work for what you need them to do, and they work easily and quickly.
Yeah, cool. And I know you're not big into stills, but although you do some, of course, but using all the same lenses and the same system as the Sony stills, is that helpful as well?
Absolutely. It's super helpful because obviously when it comes down to autofocus and especially the eye tracking, we came from stills, it went to video. It's just as useful, and I'd rather make sure that you can just rely on their autofocus system. So being able to use it for stills is just a huge benefit.
Yeah, cool. So what have we got here? You've been testing this out for a few days. We've got a few of the G Master lenses here, which we know are fantastic. What were you shooting?
So I took it on 5 different productions over the weekend, which was a very tiring weekend, as I'm sure you can imagine. We first went down and did a dramatic scene at a beach. We then went and did basically went to the cherry blossom fields we have in Perth at the moment, very lovely, with your own Isabel. Then we went down and filmed some surfing the next morning, which we tried to get some good waves. Unfortunately, there weren't many, but we got a couple of good shots, as you'll see. Then we went and shot a little car scene. I wanted to actually mount the camera inside a car as it was going around. Awesome. With safety cables, just so you're all aware, and to see whether we could handle it and how we could actually work with the image stabilization and whether that would be an issue or not. You'll see yourself whether it was. And then lastly, we had a music video. I took some behind the scenes on, and basically just wanted to put it through all the scenarios I'd normally use a camera for, especially of this size, and see how it could hold up, especially with the codec flexibility, the image stabilization, and the autofocus.
So I'm a bit fascinated by that. When you were doing the surfing, you're obviously back on the shore. I presume you weren't out on the boat or anything like that?
Unfortunately not.
No, cool. So we were using the 100 to 400 with that. What was the IBIS like?
It worked really well. I think generally if you're shooting something that long, you need a solid tripod. I probably should have used a lot more weight on mine, but it actually made up for a lot of my problems, which is great. I think something that was a big surprise to me with this camera especially is that the image stabilization is better than what it is on the full frame. And that makes sense because it's the same body size as the FX3, but the actual image stabilization has more room to work with.
Yeah, sure.
I just noticed immediate difference in the hands, mainly when using Sony lenses, of course, but immediate difference in the hands when be able to handhold it without any rigging and being like, oh, I can actually quite use this without actually having to add anything else on.
Yeah, that's cool. And was that at 60p or what were you shooting that at?
That was 25, 60, and 100.
Wow, so that's awesome.
Whatever.
And how did it handle if you bump the ISO up a bit?
Pretty good. The camera has 2 base ISOs, and when in the cinema world, we don't really stray from it unless we have to. Photographical world, you're used to just going to whatever you need to do for ISO. But we want to maximize dynamic range and on both ends of lower and higher. So you've got 800 and 2500 on this thing. I've got the ISO button set to just change between the 2 of them.
Yep, that makes sense.
Super handy. You'll see it towards the end of the little video that I released on YouTube that There's some really nice low light stuff towards the end showing a sunset, and you can see a lot of detail in that image. So it held up pretty well.
Yeah, cool. And cherry blossoms, nice colours.
Beautiful colors. I think for me, Sony's really improved their colors over the last few years.
Yeah, sure.
It's been a thing where everyone's sort of been like, oh, it's not, Sony colors were problematic, we'll say, for the nicer way to say it. They've really improved things, and I think they're almost on par with some of the more popular color aspects. But you have that 10-bit codec, which is everything, because it doesn't necessarily matter what your colors look like to start off with, as long as you know you can change them in post. Everyone's got a lot they use. Everyone likes to work different ways. I was able to get images I'm very happy with out of this camera, and for me, that's all that matters.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. And what else was good about it? I mean, obviously, we touched on it being smaller, lighter, all the rest. For anybody that's not sure, I don't think we've said it, 2,999 just for the camera without the handle, or 3,699 with the handle. So really affordable entry point into the decent sort of cinema camera as well, and saves you spending twice that to go up the range to an FX3 or an FX6.
Yeah, that's true. Look, for me, I think it's a better hybrid camera than the FX3. Mm-hmm. A lot of people wanted the A7 IV for that hybrid capability, but they found that they wouldn't get the as nice low light. They wouldn't get, it crops at 4K at 50, which is an unfortunate thing. This, you can get 4K 120 with little to no crop. You have, I think it's higher megapixel to some degree. I don't know the exact number, but it's definitely higher than the FX3. And it's a much better hybrid system.
And did you notice any difference? I mean, it's interesting. We're shooting 4K on the FX30, but it's on a 6K capable sensor, which is a bit different. I don't know if people have been normally doing things like that.
So it is common. It's more common these days. It takes a lot of processing power to make that happen, and obviously, a lot of people are trying to get good rolling shutter performance, especially for video. So it's sort of not everyone does it, but I found not a huge difference in the image, but I'm sure if you pixel peep, you'll notice that it will be a little bit sharper than what you get out of the FX3.
Yeah, sure. And what else? The car scenes, were that good?
It was a little bit finicky. Basically, I don't think Sony has a way to lock the iris in place, where some other companies do. So it's not the iris, the image stabilization.
Sure.
We thought we'd just turn it off and that would lock it. It didn't. So it was a bit of trial and error. We made it work for the most part, but it was difficult to get it to work based on the image stabilization not locking because there's too much vibration going on.
Yeah, cool. Okay, and you said autofocus was pretty good?
It's as good as any other Sony you've ever used. And, a couple of years ago when I was looking at getting a new cinema camera, one of the primarily reasons I went with Sony was because I could rely on the autofocus. Yeah. Unfortunately, for some reason, other companies who have good autofocus don't seem to want to put it in their cinema camera line. And that was one more reason to go Sony over another brand. Yeah,
fair enough. That's good. And battery life?
Battery life was good. I didn't have a problem with it. I generally am used to using 2 to 3 batteries on a day. That's about right for me. What we end up doing. You might use more if you're shooting everything at 100p.
Yeah, of course.
But generally, I think it's pretty good.
I know it's got the inbuilt fan. The fans are so quiet these days on all the cameras, which is fantastic. You don't hear them, but did you have any overheating problems at all?
No, not at all. I mean, I didn't test it fully.
Yep.
But we're shooting for 4 to 5 hours, and maybe over across 1.5 batteries, and there was no overheating at all. And that was continuous at amazing. 4K 50, 100p.
Well, that's what you need when you're doing cinema work, right? Just shoot as long as you need to, shoot all day, and know that the fan's going to do its job.
Absolutely.
Of course, we've got this side flip-out screen, which is pretty handy. Were you doing much handheld, or were you mostly on tripod or monopod or whatever?
I would say 90% handheld.
Yeah.
Which having a flip-out screen is good for that because you have more options and you can get down low without having to break your back.
Definitely. And I know you didn't have it for very long, but did you get a chance to try it out with the gimbal at all?
No, I didn't, but I'm generally not a fan of gimbals. So.
No, fair enough. I mean, everyone's got their own styles of shooting, don't they? So, I mean, you probably don't need as much with this handle as well. You can do some things there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you plugged some mics in?
Yep, we did. Audio performance is great.
Yeah, awesome. And anything else you want to tell us about it today?
Look, I think for me, it's a good camera. I think it's not for the pro tier level. I know a lot of people are hoping for another Super 35 camera on the range of an FX9 or FX6. And because they've got really nice vintage or prosumer Super 35 lenses.
Mhm.
I don't think this is going to be the answer to those questions. But for anyone who's coming from like an A6400 background or those levels and want to upgrade to something a little bit more efficient, especially for the audio ways,
Yep.
I think this is going to be a much better performance than any of those previous crop sensing cameras.
Yeah, sure. And putting you on the spot a little bit, what about against an A7S III? Because I mean, obviously it's not a full frame, it's not an A7S III, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper than an A7S III. Do you think many people would be potentially going towards this instead of going that, or?
I think if you don't need low light, because the A7S III is a beast, it's the best, you know, and it's not close to that in any stretch of the form.
Sure.
If you don't need the low light and you don't need the full frame, as when you like obviously subject separation is a thing you have to think about, then this is an easy solution, and I'd absolutely recommend it.
And what about, I mean, I know you often use your FX6 as your main cam and your FX3 as your B cam. With somebody that potentially already has an FX3 or an A7S III, is this going to be potentially their B cam?
I think so. I think for a lot of people, this would actually be a better B cam for the FX6 than the FX3, mainly because it's got great stills capabilities.
Yeah, okay, that's a good point. Yeah. Thanks for watching today, guys, as we reviewed the Sony FX30. Taylor, thanks so much for coming along. That was great to have you. Guys, if you'd like to see more of this sort of stuff, don't forget, like and subscribe to CETV. Check out our website, campbellelectronic.com.au, and please feel free to leave a comment to tell us about what you'd like to see in the future. Thanks again.